Lena doesn't need anyone. At least, that's what she tells herself as she follows diligently the person who most certainly saved her life through a maze of rocks, small ravines, and tall grass. Lena only complied because they had to be quick and use the darkness to put as much distance as possible between them and their pursuers. Besides, the mysterious woman promised to take her to Luke. So, as soon as she gets her lieutenant back, Lena has every intention to ditch her and use, if need be, the razor-sharp rock she hid in the fold of the scarf her savior gently lent to her. Lena didn't stay alive all these years by giving her trust easily to those asking her to. Not anymore. It was tiring, she admits, to always have to look over her shoulder and never really feel at ease anywhere. Be it her mother's backstabbing jibes at the castle, her enemies on the battlefield, and now even her own people for whom she did everything to protect. Lex's name echoes into her mind, but Lena shakes it away. She can't throw accusations without knowing all the facts, without having proof that her brother did indeed betray her. He didn't approve of her trying to form alliances with the neighboring kingdoms. The tentative trade treaty she had tried to sign with Daxam 2 years ago crumbled really fast when Krypton had threatened to change the course of Daxam's main river, which ran through the north part of Krypton before alimenting Daxam's wheat fields in retaliation. Lex didn't like to lose, and even less to be made a fool of in front of his enemies and the Luthor's court. But Lena had to try, if only for their people to be able to rely on something more than the tempestuous sea to find their food. And with more and more people forced to join the army, there wasn't enough workforce to feed the whole kingdom. Lena's knees buckle suddenly. She can't remember when she last ate, or if she can even qualify the hard bread and the smelly, watery soup they had been feeding her for the last month as food. The burst of adrenaline she got from her escape is rapidly dwindling away, and Lena rages. She rages inside at her body's weakness, at the cold and the dampness of her clothes that makes her teeth rattle. A hand, kind and warm, settles tentatively on her shoulder, and Lena shrugs it away petulantly. "Are you okay?" Lena breathes deeply and stands back, shaking the dizziness away. "I'm not weak," she replies vehemently. "I didn't say you were." The woman pauses and extends her hand towards Lena. "Needing help from time to time doesn't mean you are weak." Lena hums, unconvinced. "Come on," she wriggles her fingers, looking at her expectantly. Lena sighs, wondering why does she have to be so nice and helpful and noble. Lena nods her consent, and she is suddenly pressed against the blonde's side, one arm thrown over the lady's shoulder. After a few adjustments, they slowly resume their walk. Lena leans more heavily than she likes against the strong, wiry frame burrowing herself into the thickness of the cloak. They have been walking for a while, both quiet, and Lena tries to guess as much as possible about the stranger as she can. She could ask her, of course. She could be point blank and demand to know who she is, but Lena doesn't want to tip her hand that soon into the game. Instead, she files in her mind all the minute details she can't see, hoping they will give her some insight into the woman's identity. Like the way she holds herself with her shoulders stretched back, her chin up. Something about her exudes more than a sense of nobility. It commands respect. It is something Lena often sees in court. The belief to be of importance. True or not, all that matters is the way someone can exude power only in the way they hold themselves. And this woman exudes a lot of that. Everything in her speaks of confidence, the way she talks and walks with assurance, light and determined, and the way she had run across the castle, knowing when to turn, where to hide, which room to go in. A matter of a few seconds cemented in Lena's mind that her savior might be Kryptonian. But it doesn't make sense. Just a few hours ago, Lena witnessed the whole Kryptonian court cheer when she was sentenced to death. Why would this one save her? More importantly, Lena couldn't help but wonder, what would she have to give this stranger for saving her life? Lena hates this. It's like playing chess blindfolded. She doesn't know what to expect or how to plan her next move because, for the life of her, Lena can't guess the reason why the woman decided to save her from a certain death. Lena knows she is now indebted to her. She can try to escape, to fool her and disappear, but Lena knows she will always have this debt hanging over her head. Lena hates to admit it, but she is now bound to this woman she knows next to nothing of, and it scares the hell out of her. Only she had her bow with her, she thinks bitterly, walking alongside the cryptic woman. It was her dad's last gift for her. Just before they went to battle, a majestic longbow she had worked so hard to tame, hours upon hours of training, bloody fingers and tensed muscles. The smooth wood, glued to her skin and becoming an extension of her arm. It was both a weapon and armor, the one thing she could hide behind without anyone complaining. She got so good at it, no one dared to. And now that she is without it, kept somewhere in the Kryptonian castle, Lena feels utterly defenseless. But just in case her hunch might be wrong about the woman being Kryptonian, Lena checks again if she still has the jagged rock she picked up earlier in the fold of her scarf. It was a slight comfort, just the knowledge that she could still defend herself if need be. Of course, Lena knows that if this woman is Kryptonian, the rock would be useless, no matter how sharp it was. Lena is tired. She knows she won't last long tonight. The constant vigilance is taking a toll on her nerves and mental endurance. So she wills herself to trust, just for a few minutes, that the woman guiding her won't let her walk into a tree or a hole, at least long enough to have a bit of shut-eye. An archer knows when to wait and when to strike. As soon as her body goes a bit laxer, Lena feels the lady shoulder a bit more of her weight, a hand holding onto her waist a bit more tightly. Lena sighs, allowing her mind to rest as she breathes into the overwhelming sense of safety the woman radiates. There is an odd atmosphere surrounding those who walk at night, alone, with uncertainty lodged deep into their heart. Lena can't help but remember those fairy tales Lex used to tell her deep into the night when she couldn't find sleep. The both of them buried under a fort of blankets, with only the moon to keep away the dark. Stories of a young boy who lost his way and went deep into the forest, only to stumble into a magical land where everything was possible. Not unlike the young boy, Lena feels like she is on the verge of a discovery. This feeling of being thrown into a path she didn't choose but was always meant to be on, something that will forever change her life. A voice booms suddenly into the dark. "Girl of Steel, you are late." Lena jerks awake, confused and disoriented, the brightness of a fire blinding her for a few seconds. The woman holding her shrugs. "Sorry, I had to improvise halfway into our escape." Lena waits for her eyes to adjust and focus on the three silhouettes sitting near the fire, one sitting farther away against a tree. Two women stand up as they approach, and Lena tenses when she recognizes Luke attached to the tree. Her lieutenant perks up as soon as he recognizes her. "Lena, run!" he screams before being promptly knocked unconscious. Lena bristles and feels her instinct kick off. In a matter of seconds, she has the blonde into a chokehold, gripping the thin, jagged rock she hid into the fold of her scarf like a dagger against her throat. The fire crackles into the dark night, an unwilling witness in the middle of a standoff. "Don't do this," Lena hears her captive say, calm and confident. "Just loud enough." Lena dismisses her and looks towards the two women behind the fire. "Untie my lieutenant or she dies," she threatens, pressing the jagged rock closely to the blonde's jugular. "Come on, princess," a brunette scoffs, spitting Lena's title condescendingly. "We're trying to help you." Lena juts her chin towards her lieutenant, whose head rests limply onto his chest. "Then why is he tied up?" "He has been quite difficult on the way," pipes up the other one, who hit Luke unconscious. Lena reins in the anger and protectiveness she feels for her childhood friend. Instead, she holds her captive even harder against her. "Why don't we all calm down?" she hears. The only one directly in harm's way suggests placidly. Lena ignores her for a second. "Release him," she growls menacingly to the short-haired brunette, who raises an eyebrow in challenge, ready for a fight. "Come on, just take her down," the other says dismissively, tending back to the fire. Lena knows she is scared. If this woman wasn't concerned for the safety of her friend, then it meant Lena wasn't that big of a threat to begin with. Last chance to back out. Lena grits her teeth. "Go to hell." She grips the rock even harder, feeling her palm trickle with her own blood, before she is suddenly thrown to the ground over the blonde's shoulder. Lena groans, winded, but promptly gets back on her feet to see the damage she caused, because Lena knows she pierced the blonde's skin on her way down. The woman is unharmed. Lena looks back at her weapon and sees half of it had disappeared, broken off. Someone quickly restrained her, tying her hands behind her back, the rock falling out of her grasp. She had her suspicions, but she can't help but still feel astonished that the person who saved her tonight really was Kryptonian, and, shocking her even more, was the emblem on the blonde's protective chest plate. She hadn't noticed it the whole time they were together, too busy trying to escape, too dark to see, but also too tired to really pay attention. As she now watches the blonde unclip her cloak and walk toward the fire, her features now clearly illuminated and the crest of Krypton's royal family glowing proudly into the night. "Fuck," Lena whispers, shell-shocked, as she is dragged and bound to the same tree as her lieutenant. The woman standing by the fire was none other than Kara Zor-El, daughter of the woman who commanded the first Kryptonian army against the Luthors. The battle where her father was killed, the same young girl who had now clearly grown up. Lena saw from the opposite ends of the battlefield for years, until she no longer did. 5 years ago, Lena thought the girl was dead, but she had no way of confirming it. Lena watches her talk to the other two women, isolating themselves from her and Luke, but remaining directly in their line of sight. This new tidbit of information was challenging everything. Lena already feels the game of chess she thought she was playing rearrange itself in her head, and she has the ominous thought that she might be utterly way in over her head. Of all people she had to be indebted to, it had to be her. As soon as they stop looking at her, Lena scoots closer to her lieutenant, kicking him in the shin in the hope of waking him up. "Luke, wake up." After a few tries, she hears him groan. "What?" Obviously still out of it, Lena lets him grab his bearings. "It's okay, you were knocked out." She knocks her shoulder against him. "Luke, what happened?" she whispers. She feels him nod against her, humming softly. "Are you okay?" he asks, still groggy. Lena smiles, relieved. Her friend's voice eases like a balm, the deep loneliness in her heart. "Yeah, surprisingly. Good, I tried to get to you just before." Lena feels him wince as he moves to make himself more comfortable. "Just before you left, but King Lex got to me first. Lady Veronica was spying us. She told the king that you left. He ransacked your quarters and began to round the Royal Archers Company. I got Jess to tell them to hide before he could execute them all for treason." Lena expels a shaky breath. Of course, Lex was behind this. The three women are still talking animatedly by the fire, and Lena shivers. She knows deep down that it was him, but she hadn't wanted to believe it. She had been clinging to the image of her loving brother she knew and loved. So Lex framed us. Yes, halfway through the interrogation, he knocked me out. Next thing I know, I was standing in the middle of a burning village. It was a massacre. I tried to go back home, but the Kryptonians caught me on my way back. Does Lady Veronica know everything about our plan? I don't think so. I don't think he would have wasted his time on me otherwise. Lena bites her lip in worry. She knew what she was doing was risky, but she didn't think they would have been discovered that early into her plan. A nagging feeling of concern for her company lodges deep inside her. "And the others? Who did you put in charge?" Luke doesn't respond for a moment. Lena knows that the answer won't please her. "Eli." "What? He's a kid." Eli wasn't even remotely ready for battle. Lena still sees him running after her every time she and Luke pass by the village, with a bow twice his size nagging her to teach him, spying on him at the training field with dirt on his face. Luke laughs softly. "He's 19, he'll manage." "He's reckless," Lena replies, already imagining the worst. Since he joined the company at 15, Lena can't help but remember all the times the kid got himself into trouble, always picking fights with people bigger, better than he was, trying to prove something that eluded her. "Only because he tries to be like you. You kind of like to take risks, Captain," he whispers mockingly. Lena smiles, picturing the face of a brown-eyed 10-year-old kid looking at her like the hero she wasn't. Luke is right. Lena shuts her eyes tightly in frustration, angry at herself. This happened because of her. She put everyone in danger. She should have planned better. She should have waited a bit more, and maybe they wouldn't be in this mess. Lena quickly gazes towards the three women, Lady Kara Zor-El, still arguing quietly by the fire with the brunette with short hair, while the other one was attending to horses. "Not as much as you. How come I find you attached to a tree anyway?" He chuckles. "I didn't play nice. I tried to escape a few times." He nods towards the brunette talking with Lady Kara Zor-El. "I tried to knock the angry one down." Lena hums, still observing them. "Don't wonder why she looked so eager to knock you out." Luke moves against the tree, restless, still trying to find a comfortable position. Lena wonders distractedly how long he's been waiting for her, tied up to that tree. "What do you think they want from us?" he whispers. Lena sighs, still trying to understand how all the pieces fitted together. "I'm not sure, but whatever it is, it can't be good." "Wait, isn't that..." Luke coughs abruptly, choking on his saliva. Lena raises an eyebrow at him, asking him silently to be more discreet. He stops and looks at her puzzled. "Didn't you tell me she was..." he whispers. Lena shakes her head and interrupts him before he makes a fool of himself. "I was wrong. She saved my life." Lena is feeling out of sorts herself by this enigma that was Lady Kara Zor-El. "Oh, do you think..." "Quiet, they're coming." Lena watches Kara approach, followed closely by the angry brunette. "Sorry for the treatment, Princess Lena." Lena nods warily. It's the first time someone addressed her so formally since she had been captured. Lena can't help but wonder why Lady Kara would observe protocol when her companions or even her fellow Kryptonians weren't inclined to do the same. She eyes the bonds and frowns. "We are going to release you," she begins, but is quickly interrupted by the scowling brunette, who arches an eyebrow, looking at her pointedly. Lady Kara sighs. "But only if you give us your word that you'll both stop trying to escape." Well, where was the fun in that? Lena thinks, observing the Kryptonians closely, waiting for something that will betray their true intentions. "Why, am I not your prisoner?" Lena asks, trying to goad them into a fight or anything that will help her paint the portrait of the woman's character. Lady Kara shakes her head and smiles, something Lena wasn't expecting. "Not at all. I have a proposition for you, but presently we have to go before they catch up with us. I'd rather you come willingly, Princess." Lena ponders the question, even if they somehow escape. She doubts Luke knew where they were, or even the direction toward the Luther's kingdom or the outlawed territories. Lena hates feeling cornered. Lena throws a look towards Luke, who only shrugs in response. "All right." "Great." Lady Kara claps her hands with a big smile. Lena feels a little jarred by the perpetual grin she sees on the woman's face. It was odd to be subjected to this unending joy and positivity. It makes Lena feel nervous. It leaves her wanting for the other's shoe to drop. Their bonds get taken away. "We'll have to ride the rest of the night." Lady Kara guides her toward a beautiful black horse. "You'll ride with me, Princess. Your lieutenant can ride with Lady Alexandra," she says offhandedly. Lena looks back towards Luke and hears him groan as Lady Alexandra pushes him towards a grey horse, smirking dangerously at him. "Don't worry, she's not going to kill him," Lady Kara whispers teasingly to her ears. Lena startles, taken aback. Lena narrows her eyes at the ever-present and genuine smile on Lady Kara's face. Lena watches Luke get on the horse with a frown, and Lady Alexandra climbs behind him. The other woman, who has been tending to the horses, is now stomping onto the fire, gathering their last belongings together. "That's Lady Margaret," Lady Kara whispers again. Ever the helpful one, but she prefers to go by Maggie. You might get punched in the face if you call her by her full name. Lena scowls. She hates that Lady Kara seems to be so attuned to her thoughts and responds so easily to the questions running in her mind. She's looking at her with patience and warmth, and it infuriates Lena even more. The woman only shrugs and smiles back at her less than sunny disposition. She holds a hand towards her. "Come on, I'll help you get on the horse." Lena scoffs, puts her foot on the stirrup, and gets on the horse on her own. She hears Lady Lena laugh softly before feeling her pressed snugly against her back, her arms coming around her waist to hold on to the reins. Lena gulps, glad the woman can't see the blush on her face. As soon as Maggie gets on her horse, their party is quick to leave their spot and make their way into the dark forest. Lady Alexandra at the front and Maggie bringing up the rear, their horses trot into a path only illuminated by the moon. Lena was no stranger to the pleasure of the flesh, but being so close to Lady Lena and having to move as one in order to facilitate the horse's movement feels somewhat sinful, a feeling she never felt so keenly before. Even with other women she's been with, Lena tries to shake the thought away, but it is quite hard not to think of something when that something is literally breathing into her neck, when her breath and body encases her into a warm embrace. It was only anxiety, Lena tries to persuade herself, like a prey. The jittery feeling in her veins might be because this woman behind her is still, indirectly, her sworn enemy and had been for years. It was only anxiety, Lena tries to persuade herself, like a prey sensing danger. Lena shuts her eyes tightly and pinches her lips. That still doesn't explain the nervous butterflies she feels in her guts, or the shot of desire she feels traveling down her spine every time the woman presses against her. Lena feels a hand rest on her stomach soothingly. "Are you okay?" Lena heaves the biggest sigh ever in her mind. Damn that woman and her attractiveness. "I'm fine," she replies shortly. Lady Kara doesn't respond, and Lena suddenly feels bad for her shortness towards the blonde, especially when it was her own fault she couldn't control her hormones. It's just been a long day." Lena feels her nod against her shoulder, and she wonders for the 10th time if it is necessary for Lady Lena to be so close to her. "It won't be long before we get to safety. You'll get to rest then." Lena clears her throat, trying to get her wit back. "What are you going to do with us?" She hears the woman behind her heave a sigh, separating her body a bit. It felt like an ocean stood between them. "Not now, but I promise I'll explain everything when we are safe." Lena hums thoughtfully and waits, as the only thing she can do. She watches the trees pass by, their trunk dark and twisted into claws, not unlike the fairy tales she used to hear when she was a kid, except that now they were real. Lena doesn't know if it's a trick of her mind, born out of fatigue, or if those memories and old fears resurfaced because of the Kryptonian pressed against her. Lena suddenly tips her head back. She hears a small exclamation of surprise from the woman behind her before her head falls comfortably back onto Lady Kara's shoulder. Lena chuckles softly. Just a few hours ago, she was thinking about how she wouldn't get to see the stars anymore. And now, here she is, riding under the starry. "They're beautiful, aren't they?" Lady Kara whispers. Lena expels a breath, the dark sky blurring into splotches of black and white as tears well up into her eyes. "I used to..." Lady Kara pauses, unsure, and Lena waits, time standing still. "I used to make up stories about them with my aunt when she would teach me their name. We used to go to that beautiful field up the hill just outside the castle and look at the stars." Lena feels Lady Kara shiver behind her, the arms that were encircling her waist passively before are now actively hugging her. Lady Kara was unconsciously drawing her closer to her, either because of the cold or for comfort. Either way, Lena didn't care why. All she does is relish into the warmth so freely given and waits. Lena doesn't say how much she needs this too. One time we pretended that we were lying under a tent where the sky was a canvas and the stars were the little holes in it. Lady Lena chuckles against her neck, embarrassed. "It's silly." "Not at all," They both watch the sky lighten and the stars disappear. Lena feels like they have come to an understanding. Just for the reminder of the night, Lena wanted to forget she was a Luther, and the lady behind her was of the House of El, a temporary truce regardless of what was to come and what came before. They could agree on this quiet moment, meant to be cherished before the sky bleeds red again. The horses slow down the pace, a sure hint that they are nearly at their destination. The thin, wiry trees are now replaced by thicker ones, their branches going up high into the sky, creating a roof above them. They follow a river to their right, hidden by the uneven landscape, when Lena suddenly hears the unmistakable sound of a waterfall. The horses trot deeper into the forest, and Lena observes alert, with an odd sense of foreboding grips at her guts. She watches Luke's hand a few meters from her tap softly against his thigh. How many people he could see. They were surrounded. Lena sees a shadow move between the trees. She stiffens, and her sudden movement spooks the horse, and Lady Kara calms him down quickly. "They are with us," Lady Kara tells her. It doesn't stop her from scanning the surrounding area. A beautiful waterfall stands before them, and the horses stop. People come out of the trees. Lena watches Luke stiffen, ready to fight. Lady Alexandra dismounts from her horse, asking Luke to do the same. "This is one of the borders to Mars Republic. We'll have to go behind the waterfall," she tells them. It's suddenly a quiet affair. Their horse gets taken away, and Lady Alexandra leads them to the waterfall. Lena fists her hand into the back of Luke's shirt. Following closely, she shivers, her clothes still humid from the jump into the moat earlier. Lady Kara drapes her cloak silently onto her shoulders. Lena never set foot in the Mars Republic. All she knows about them, she learned it in old books from the library. The land they lived in was divided into 5 kingdoms, and this one had always been described as barren and harsh to those who lived in it. The water is deafening. The tunnel hiding behind the curtain of water is slick and humid, lit up only by torches and a bright light at the other end. The sound echoes everywhere onto the walls until it doesn't. It encompasses them before revealing a beautiful meadow illuminated by the rising sun. Lena realizes in shock how terribly outdated their history books were. A guard is waiting for them at the other end and leads them to the outpost, where Lady Kara speaks briefly to the guard. Lena feels Maggie's looming presence at her back, hammering unnecessarily to the point that they couldn't escape. They are then led to a bubbling village, bursting with people so different from those in her kingdom. People come and go, looking at her curiously. Lady Kara leads her toward a home where several people are already waiting for them. She waves at them with a happy smile. This feels entirely surreal. They enter a house where maids are waiting for them. Lena arches a brow towards Lady Kara. "I'll let you wash up and have a meal, and then we'll talk, I promise." Lena nods. Luke is taken to another room, where maids ask her to follow into a room where a hot bath is waiting for her. A bath never felt so good. Lena sighs contentedly as she emerges herself into the water. One of the maids giggle, and Lena winks playfully at her. They scrub her clean, brush her hair, and bring her new pants and shirts, comfortable shoes, and a warm black cloak to ward off the cold. They take her into a room where a freshly bathed Luke is waiting for her. Food is presented to them, and they sink their teeth into the warm bread and broth, warming their insides. As soon as the food is cleared away, Lady Kara enters the room, freshened up herself, followed by Lady Alexandra. Luke stands and places himself behind his captain, a warm, reassuring hand squeezing her shoulder briefly, before Lady Kara sits on his chair, facing them, Lady Alexandra standing behind her. The game is finally about to begin. Lena isn't much of a player, but she'd rather have all the odds on her side than give her opponents the advantage. They look at each other and Lena attacks first. "I thought you were dead, Lady Kara Zor-El." "Oh, so you did recognize me," she replies, sounding surprised. "Hard not to. You're not someone easy to forget," Lena says offhandedly, still remembering the lonely girl on the opposite side of the battlefield. Luke clears his throat, and Lena realizes what she just said and tries again. "I just mean that I watched your blonde hair and your crest float in the wind long enough, and it's imprinted into my mind." "Oh." Lena bites her lip in embarrassment. Lena sniggers behind her. "That came out wrong. She didn't mean to." Lena sighs, frustrated. She is exhausted. Give her a break. Lena changes the subject to a less slippery slope. "Anyway, what happened to you?" "Well, it didn't die, as you can see. But Krypton is not what it used to be." Lena watches the woman steel herself, her blue eyes clouding. Suddenly, there was a coup 5 years ago. General Astra took command. Her and her husband banished or killed anyone who disagreed with their policy. My parents were one of those. They got killed, but not before they sent me away into hiding. "General Astra," Lena muses. "She is the one I saw in the Great Hall, isn't it?" "Yes, she is my aunt." Lena hears the pain, barely concealed in the woman's voice. She nods, acknowledging the sudden melancholy in that simple statement. Images of stars and laughter blurring into her mind. "I understand. My brother hasn't been the same since he took the crown," Lena offers quietly. "Power changes people." Lena shakes her head. It would have been so easy if that was the case, to believe that her brother was still innocent, that the responsibility and pressure of the crown could explain her brother's cruelty and justify his need of knowledge and power. I don't think so. I think it only amplifies who they really are. You don't think they can be saved? No, there is nothing to save. Sometimes some people are just bad. There's nothing you can do except protect yourself and the ones depending on you. Lady Kara hums thoughtfully. Lena sees that she is not really convinced by what she just said. "I was at your trial yesterday." Lena nods and smirks, ready to fight. "Do you agree with them? Do you think me guilty?" "I don't know yet." Anger bubbles just below the surface, ready to explode. She couldn't explain the sudden need for this woman to be in her corner, this longing for someone to believe in her. She knows she isn't being fair. Somehow, without her notice, she came to respect and admire the Kryptonian. Why save me then? That's what people keep asking me. Lena's eyes stray to the stoic brunette, glaring daggers at her. But I prefer to judge people on their own merits. Lena scoffs. We've been at war for more than a decade. I think my merits are considered crimes in Krypton. They are. Like mine are in your kingdom. Anyway, I was made aware of the correspondence you keep with Lady Cat Grant of the Outlaw Territories. Lena narrowed her eyes. That witch. We have been allies for years. She showed them to me. Lady Kara expels a breath and looks directly into her eyes. Lena feels bewitched. The asylum you are seeking for you and your people is only a temporary relief. The war isn't about the Luthers and the Kryptonians anymore. Krypton has been making advances into the outlaw territories recently, and they allied themselves with Daxam a year ago. The only thing protecting you is your kryptonite reinforced border, but even that will be overwhelmed by the army General Astra is building. What do you want from me then? Lena is grateful for Luke's solid presence at her back, always watching, always protecting her. An alliance. The resistance is led by my cousin Kal-El. in the outlawed territories, where he is pushing back the general's army back into Krypton's border. But you must be aware of our biology. While we are not immortal, our skin is imperishable. It does make killing us nearly impossible. Lady Kara sighs, getting suddenly more tired than Lena ever seen her so far. It's a doomed battle. There are more casualties on the outlawed side than Krypton's. We need kryptonite. Lena nods, now with a clear picture of the situation, which had only been found in the kingdom of the Luthers. Yes. This was unexpected. The land was in far more turmoil than she thought. If only Lex hadn't been so bent into closing down their borders, into turning a blind eye to everyone else but Krypton, they could have put an end to the war way before their kingdom starved itself. They could have sought out allies and take the load of war off these people's shoulders for a bit. I fled. You must be aware that I'm not really high into my brother's good grace right now. To go back would be a death sentence for me. Why would I accept? Lady Kara Zor-El, blonde hair and blue-eyed knight, sits proudly in her polished armor with the proud crest of her house on her chest plate, and looks at her with such intensity and hope that Lena feels stunned for a few seconds. You are asking for a fresh start for you and your people. I'm giving you one, but you'll have to fight for it. It's the only way. You'll die if you do this on your own. This woman sitting before her is otherworldly. It's the only explanation Lena has to suddenly consider staging a coup against her own brother and make it sound noble. This woman was asking her to commit treason without batting an eyelash, challenging her to a step up her game, to be on par with her. Lady Kara makes it sound like she could be a hero if she wanted to. You are asking me to overthrow my brother. Yes. Yes, and I will help you in any way I can. Lena waits, letting that offer sink in. She never wanted to lead. She always saw herself in the shadows, helping her people one step at a time, walking with them through a peaceful life like they used to when her father was king. If I do succeed and give you the kryptonite, what guarantees do I have that you won't betray me? That you won't overtake my kingdom when everything is done? My word. Lena scoffs. Your word is not enough. She saved your life. Lady Alexandra protests. Lena looks at her impassively. They need her. Lady Kara was a kind soul. Lena could say that much. She didn't want lives to be lost, especially if there was a way she could stop it. Lena was their solution, and it gave her incredible power. In this game where Lena felt blindsided and helpless the whole time, she finally has something she can work with. She has leverage. It was time to make her move. Lena retreats to that calm place, meditative state she always went under before letting her arrows fly. Her heartbeat slows down, everything goes into focus. Lady Alexandra, in spite of her stoniness, is definitely anxious, betrayed by the tightness in her shoulders and the hard grip she has on the pommel of her sword. Lady Kara is more open, easier to read, and yet this openness was deceiving. If Lena judges her only by her expression, Lena would think that the woman was calm, if only slightly worried, as showed by the crinkle on her brow. Her sunny disposition hides a nervous tick in her hands. It hides the rage, helplessness, and the sorrow of a drawn-out war. Lena reads it easily in her eyes, in the set of her shoulder, and in the way she hides herself behind her bright smiles. Lady Kara looks like she knew sacrifice, and the burden weighs heavily on her shoulders. Lena has to be smart. She has to make this alliance airtight and make her demand now. Luke steps up closer behind her, his support a solid presence at her back. It's sink or swim. Lady Alexandra glares at them with open distrust. What do you want? Lady Kara finally asks, annoyance and anger shining for the first time briefly in her eyes. An idea suddenly hits her and Lena smiles. Sitting back comfortably on her chair, watching them squirm, Lena never thought she would one day do this willingly, let alone be the one to propose it. Marry me. The gasps and look of shock in the room is enough satisfaction to quiet the nerves she feels in her stomach. The stoniness Lady Alexandra had shown so far was quite impressive, now that Lena can actually see how much she is thrown by what she has just said. Anger and a deep protectiveness move her body, hiding Lady Kara temporarily out of sight. Kara, you don't have to do this. Let them fend for themselves. We don't need them. Lena hears her whisper frantically, and she smiles and waits, hiding her trembling hands under the table. Luke puts his hands on her shoulder calmly, and Lena breathes easier. Do you know that we do? Lady Kara says, a battle of wills silently happening between the two women before Lady Alexandra nods and takes her place back behind the blonde. Lena waits. Lady Kara is looking intensely at her, a quiet pain appearing in her eyes. It was nearly enough to make Lena feel bad. I accept. I will bind myself to you. Of all the reckless things she has done, Lena thinks this one certainly takes the cake.